All right, Crystal, what are your breaking points today?
Well, if climate change is an existential threat, Biden is letting us drown. That was essentially the message of Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse as he laid out the silence and lack of action from the Biden administration on what Democrats claim is the existential threat of climate change. So here's Senator Whitehouse's Twitter thread calling out the Biden administration. He says in part, "Okay, I'm now officially very anxious about climate legislation. I'll admit I'm sensitive from the Obama climate abandonment, but I sense trouble. Number one, climate has fallen out of the infrastructure discussion as it took its bipartisanship detour. It may not return. So then what?" Senator Whitehouse continues. Two, I don't see the preparatory work for a close Senate climate vote taking place in the administration. Why not marshal business support? In the very next tweet, he answers his own question, however, about business support, writing, "Corporate America is still completely AWOL, if not worse, on climate in Congress. All the major corporate trade associations suck. All of them." Senator Whitehouse concludes by saying, "We need planning, organizing, and momentum. It's not going to be easy, and it has to work. We are running out of time." Now, the climate crisis, you'll recall, was one of the top reasons given by the Bernie Sanders left for sucking it up and voting Biden in spite of his horrific record on war, on mass incarceration, on Wall Street, on trade, and, well, pretty much everything else. As Glenn Greenwald was quick to point out, this was the primary reason, for example, given by Noam Chomsky for passionately making the case that Biden must be elected over Trump. Remember these ads?
Another 4 years of Trump may literally lead us to the stage where the survival of organized human society is deeply imperiled. The most important issue that humans have faced in their history is the impending catastrophic climate disaster.
According to a new report, experts say that we have until 2030 to avoid catastrophe.
Trump is the worst person in the world on this issue.
Now, look, I voted for Joe Biden, and I think Chomsky was more or less correct in all that he's saying here. He wasn't arguing Biden would be amazing, just that maybe with Biden there could be a shot, and with Trump there was definitely no chance. Well, whatever shot there was under Biden to shift course on climate is rapidly slipping away by handing his agenda to Joe Manchin, the Senate parliamentarian, and the gauzy lure of never to be bipartisanship. Biden has made it plain that whatever he or other Democrats might say about the existential threat of climate change, they don't actually mean it. As Senator Whitehouse points out here, endless and likely fruitless negotiations with Republicans have already stripped climate change from the infrastructure package. That infrastructure package is itself no guarantee, but if it does pass, it will surely be the last piece of significant legislation in the first 4 years of the Biden presidency. Now, progressives are actually dipping their toe in the water of playing some hardball politics. Martin Heinrich tweeted that an infrastructure package that goes light on climate and clean energy should not count on every Democratic vote, a sentiment which AOC agreed with there in that tweet. It's not quite the hard line that the right-wing Democrats draw like Manchin or the no salt, no dice crew, but at least they did hint that maybe, possibly going light on climate could risk losing their votes. I don't want to be cynical here, but I'm also not going to get my hopes up that any sort of red line is actually going to be drawn in a hard and definitive way. New data, though, should bolster the progressive case that the threat is at least as significant as Biden previously claimed to believe. Carbon dioxide levels are now at an all-time high, that in spite of a million pandemic-era Earth is healing memes. Scientists at UC San Diego's Scripps Institute of Oceanography, they recorded carbon dioxide levels at 419 parts per million in May. That is a new record, and it's 50% higher than in pre-industrial times. Ralph Keeling, a geochemist at Scripps, told the LA Times that it's rising as fast as ever. Fossil fuel burning is the center of the problem. It's what's driving CO2 up and is the major cause of climate change. The truth is this: Democrats are playing you for fools. They love to use existential rhetoric, sometimes justifiably, sometimes not justifiably, but they never ever act in a way that matches the words. Just ask yourself this: if Trump was an existential threat and a fascist leader, why do they willingly hand him huge military budgets and surveillance powers? If our democracy is truly in danger of existential collapse, why are you just allowing Joe Manchin to casually torpedo the reforms upon which we were told our democracy depended? If we're in a battle for the soul of America, why is Biden engaging in all the same standard issue Washington corruption that has so damaged Americans' trust in our government? Now, on climate, the data speaks for itself. Establishment corporate Democratic rhetoric claimed an existential threat, and on this particular threat, they were correct. But they treat it like any other issue, to be trotted out on the campaign trail, used to shame and guilt reticent, principled voters into voting blue no matter who, and then jettisoned as soon as it's inconvenient. Don't worry, it'll be dragged back out the next time they need young lefties to begrudgingly give them their vote. But by that time, it may well be too late. And this is a real test setting up here for the Squad Saga, because look,